based on your time zone, for me, it's PST time. I have straight up on the hour, and for us, 10 o'clock, and different places in the country, a different time. I want to welcome everybody to another SMB TechFest webinar, and I'm excited today. We have a fantastic topic that we're going to be covering. You can read the report. It's addressing ransomware attacks and cyber threats, and I'm really delighted to have Jay Ryerson with us, and he's going to be kicking off with a presentation in just a few moments. I will start off with some information as a few more people join us, and everyone should be able to see my screen. And I'm going to go ahead and jump so that you know our format for today. Our format that we're going to do is I'm going to kick it off with some real quick news, and then with that, Jay from Carvir is going to talk, of course, the primary topic, ransomware and cyberware attacks, and what you can do to protect your clients, or even if this is something that you use internal. Something that you can do to help yourself as well. The chat window is open for questions. I'm going to be keeping an eye on the questions, so by all means, as Jay goes through material, feel free to ask questions. I'll keep track of them, and I'll try to do a little bit of a combination of interrupt Jay if it's really pertinent, or at the end, we'll definitely have some time for Q&A. And then, of course, we have a raffle at the end, too. We'll talk more about that. So the first thing I would do is share some news really quick. SMB TechFest is a quarterly technology conference. Happens 4 times a year. We just had a fantastic event about 2.5 weeks ago. Matter of fact, Jay was there, and they had some great opportunity talking about their solution, and that's part of why I asked him to be involved in the webinar to reach even more. To tell about the solution. The next event is coming up Q3, which is going to be July. The big day with the expo hall and all the sessions is July 20th, which is a Thursday. And as I mentioned, this is either on-site, and we also live video broadcast, so you can be anywhere. The actual event happens in Southern California, but we have people all over the U.S., Africa, UK, Canada, as we live stream it as well. So do check that out. You can learn more at /events, and you can see the upcoming dates, get a little teaser at the photos on the screen of the session hall, fantastic food. Yes, that's a sports car. That happens to be a Ferrari. We have a theme of accelerated SMB TechFest, as in getting you accelerated, and also, of course, a little bit of fun with some sports cars. So the event we just had, we had a Lamborghini, and still a little bit of a mystery. What's Q3? We'll keep you guessing. And then, of course, the expo hall with solutions. So hope you can join that, and we will raffle away some entrance passes right at the end of this webinar as well. So with that, I want to welcome Jay again. Jay, thanks. And we're going to slide decks over so that Jay can begin presenting and share the solution that they have with everybody. So Jay, when you're ready, I'll let you go ahead and kick it off.
All right. Well, Dave, thank you for your time. I do appreciate it. I appreciate everybody who's online today. There's certainly a warm following of your events and what's going on. It was our first time at the event in Anaheim, and we had a great time, and I appreciate meeting everybody out there. So our goal today is to discuss the 9 building blocks to protect your clients and your own MSP against cyber threats and ransomware attacks. I do want to note that we were honored by the attendees at the event here in Anaheim recently, who chose us as the best security for Q2 at the TechFest event. So for all of you that were there and that voted for us, thank you for that. Consider that an honor. All right, so Dave, I'm going to ask you the question since you're the one person that can actually talk back. Who do clients blame when they've been hacked?
I'm sure they blame their provider because they should have protected them.
Yeah, isn't that what providers do? Isn't that part of what we actually do as an MSP and an owner of an MSP, or in my case, a former owner? Clients think that we protect them against everything. That includes being hacked. Are you tired of ransomware? It's the ongoing question that we ask, and the more engineers and owners we talk to, the more we hear about how bad these things are happening and what's going on with them. And more importantly, I'm going to ask, is your business capitalizing on the ransomware opportunity? Now, that usually takes people for a loop because they aren't quite expecting that question because, ransomware is bad. How can we capitalize on that? Well, let's talk about cybersecurity and what's happening and what the opportunity looks like. A recent report commissioned by TrustWave showed that in 2016 there were 4.2 billion records exposed, and that the prevention market by 2021 will be $34 billion a year. It's also interesting that in that report, they interviewed 1,600 CIOs, IT security managers, and directors of security in January of this year. And the average employee size of those companies was just over 4,000 employees. And when you see that 83% of those companies and decision makers when it comes to technology already partner with or plan to partner with a managed security provider, it seems to me that we all should be looking for ways to capitalize on the ransomware and security threats that are going on. Now, somebody said to me last year that, oh, ransomware is a fad, it's going away. Well, it's 4 years plus going strong. Last year, over the year, you can see how many times it actually doubled. It was a 4x over the previous year. And the initial forecast for 2017 were going to be that it was going to double again this year. But our current trends show that we're seeing at least 4x again this year. So it's an ongoing recurring problem that we need to deal with. And more importantly than the actual ransomware is what the ransom prices are that are being collected. Those of you in Southern California know the Hollywood Hospital story. But what IBM reported on back in December, which was only a few months ago, was that 45% of the companies that paid ransom coughed up more than $20,000 to get their files back, and 20% of those paid more than $40,000. So they're actually increasing their ransom, and of course the cost of Bitcoins has gone up, which really does make this more of a threat to all of our businesses. As IT professionals, we really do have to solve this problem. So when you're talking about trying to solve it, you go out to NIST and you go out to all the other environments out there where they tell you what kind of controls to put in place. My favorite really is the SANS 20 CSCs, or critical security controls. It gives you a really good list of things that you should be doing to protect your environment. Now, if it was just one environment, Dave, this wouldn't be so bad. But as an MSP, we've got anywhere from 30 to hundreds of client sites to actually replicate and duplicate this on, and it's very difficult. Customers don't want to pay for all of these levels of defense, and yet if you ask the customer, they actually believe that you provide this level of security.
And hence, that's the challenge right there.
It really is, and we've got to do a better job of explaining to them and identifying and showing in our contracts what we do and what we don't cover. But no one's talking about that. No one's saying, hey, Mr. Customer, we don't do these 19 things. We only do one. But we also do these things for you, which are also relevant. But, let's figure out what that looks like, because if there's an attack, you really need to be aware of it and what's going on. So we get asked the question, and I'm sure it's why we're here today, is, where should we start to become the cybersecurity expert? Well, I happen to be a firm believer of marketing. If those of you that don't know me, I did used to own an MSP in Atlanta. I sold it right out 3 years ago. I was heavily involved in Robin Robbins marketing, so much so that I was her 2015 Better Your Best winner, which is basically her partner that uses her marketing and has the best year ever. So I believe in marketing. I think marketing is being done for us in this space in a way that none of us really are talking about, and that is all the major news outlets are talking about hacks and who got hacked, who got attacked, whose information got shared. I mean, this weekend, if you were watching the election in France, you know, the news media knew that the new president's email had been hacked, but they weren't talking about it. They admitted that it happened, but they weren't sharing what was actually found and what came out of it. You know, I'm sure they were trying to do it not to impact an election, but you know, we should be leaning on this content and really kind of working our way towards leveraging the press to help us have these conversations. And I don't care if you're following, you know, security companies on LinkedIn, if you're following Drudge, any of the other tools out there, they're marketing for you and they're scaring your business owner or clients into asking security questions, but they're afraid to ask because they really don't want the answer. Another thing that you'll see is that there is a tremendous amount of local content. Now, in this case, I pulled one of a local Atlanta area orthopedic facility that got hit, and they didn't know that they had been breached until the FBI walked in and told them that 205,000 patient records were available for sale online. And then, of course, they had no plan to handle it, which was even worse. Another one, a little closer to you guys, in Idaho, just recently, I was actually there for a speaking event with one of our partners, and a local county had been hit by a ransomware attack. Well, the IT people said, oh, no problem, we've got to figure it out. We switched over to backup servers, and that was on a Wednesday. And then it turns out that they thought it was contained, but on Friday morning at 4 a.m., they realized that the virus had also infected at least one of the backup servers, causing the entire county to go offline. So it took down the 911 center, took down dispatch. They were having to use cell phones and maps to route first responders to emergencies. 2 weeks later, they fessed up that they had to pay the ransom to get back their servers, and get back their data. So if I'm in the Idaho market, this is obviously important to me. I'm going to share this out there. Multiple sheriff's departments. We know of 6 that have been hit with ransomware attacks since Christmas. There's 3 that are public that I know of. There's 3 that are under NDA that have also been hit. And these are issues. You know, they'll come out and we will know who they were. But today, be aware that they're going after every opportunity to access data that they can possibly get. So when you're trying to leverage the news and the media in your presentations and in your content, you know, it has to be local. It has to be somewhat emotional. So when I was preparing for this event, I actually went out yesterday and ran a search for the town where my office is in, which is in Cumming, Georgia. And the second line down, I saw nearly 20,000 social security numbers released by our local county. And frankly, that pissed me off. You know, and I'm sure that if you guys run these kinds of searches in your markets, you're going to find some of the same stuff. And so if you share that this is happening locally, it's a much easier conversation when you start saying that, you know, 1 in 5 businesses will be hit by an attack this year and all the other stats that we like to throw out to people.
Jay, I was just going to say, I really like the idea that you're showing real life examples, because sometimes clients know it's an issue, but they don't realize until it hits home how much of an issue it is. And this idea that you're sharing really quick about go out and get some stats about what's happening in your local area, I think really makes it a reality when you're talking to a client. Anyway, I appreciate that.
No, thank you. And it really does. And it certainly helps tell the story. You can keep a book of recent attacks, keep them on your website, put them out there. So doing that same search, I changed it from my town to just Atlanta. So I wanted to see what was going on, you know, in the area. And of course, I know a lot of these, but I had seen the Peachtree Orthopedics breach, but didn't really read too far into it. And I realized that, so literally 531,000 people were put at risk. At the end of last year, it was the largest in Georgia, and it was the 6th largest threat and attack and impacting the number of people in the U.S. So I mean, in size, it was substantial. I now, after I've looked even further, I know that now there's actually 3 orthopedic facilities that have been hit in Atlanta in the last 6 months. So, you know, it's happening all day long, and if you just look for it a little bit, you can find this great content. So why don't you hear more about it? You know, why don't you hear about ransomware itself? Well, first off, it's embarrassing. For those of you that are actually on the call right now, you know, I'm not sure any one of you would really want to reach out and tell your other clients that one of your existing clients got hit by a ransomware attack. It always needs to be somebody else's customer. And because of that, we're not having honest conversations about what's going on in the space and being able to address it. Now, I don't blame you for not wanting to share it because it's horrible PR. If I'm your competitor and I know that your business had a client who got hit by ransomware, I'm pretty sure I'm going to get a video testimony from that customer talking about how another MSP didn't do a good job protecting them. I'm going to use that in my conversations. And lastly, the legal ramifications, the fines, the lawsuits, and so a lot of incidents go unreported, or they do a really good job of coming up with the forensics to show that data wasn't impacted, so it's not a reason to report the breach. Well, I'm going to disagree that that's a good approach. So I went out and started looking at California specifically, which I'm pretty sure, Dave, is where a lot of your partners are located in Southern California. What I saw was I went out to the Attorney General's office in the state of California, and you guys had this really cool database out there where you can plug in a date range. So I plugged in from January through just the end of April, and there have been 48 reported breaches in California since the first of the year. And you can click on the links and dive into them and actually understand what happened, what it was, and what the actual breach was, how many people were impacted, and it's all over the board. I think it goes from Gannett Company all the way down to Westlake Touchless Car Wash. So it's all different kinds of size of businesses. So if you're trying to build your own local content, this is as credible as it gets because they had to report that information.
That's a great resource. I didn't know about that one. That's cool.
Yep. Another one which more people know about is the HIPAA, what we call the wall of shame. It has to do with the HIPAA high tech, and this particular site shows all the breaches with 500 or more individuals. So 107 so far this year. And you can go in where it says show advanced options on that page, and you can actually just choose, show me California, show me the Southwest US, Northwest, wherever you want to search for, and you can show up and pull up real life breaches that had to be reported. So when your doctor says this doesn't impact me, it's not a fair statement, and you've got to be able to counter that with content. And so that's certainly important. I call this a bonus because I know it's 2 slides early before I give you an email address, but we found a law firm who put out a really cool PDF document, and you can click on the state, and it takes you right to the pages that actually lay out the breach reporting guidelines for businesses in your states. And so in a moment here, I'll give you an email address. You guys can email it, and we'll share the link as to where it is. So you can go out and see exactly what the rules are, so you can show a customer, say, look, here's a law firm that did the analysis and said that this is what you're responsible for reporting, in our state. And so, yeah, we care about it because it's going to impact all of us. And of course, it's happening more than most are willing to admit. I actually need to update this slide because I did this one early last week where we said that 4 different MSPs have been hacked the week before. We now know of 9 MSPs that have been hacked in the last 30 days. Okay, so not only now are the threat actors going after your customers, but they're going after the MSPs because the IT service provider has the keys to the kingdom to a whole bunch of customers. You've probably got password files, you've got shortcuts to data, you've got access into their tools using your RMM tools. And, I'm gonna beg everybody on the call to make sure that when we go through this list of things today to do to help secure your customers, that you also do it for yourself. And when we talk about things that are happening fast, if you want to see them in real time, this RSS feed from Cyware Labs, here's a sample of it. I took a 3-hour window last week, generated over 12 articles. We're seeing anywhere from 1 to 5 articles being linked to every single hour from Cyware on their RSS feed concerning security stuff. Now, some of it is new 0 days or vulnerabilities have been found. Some are new solutions that are out there going on, but there's so much content out there available to you if you just know where to look. So if you're not sure where, start with the Cyware news page. So how do you meet all these expectations and really kind of start building this story and explaining it to your customers? And for those of you that were at the event, you may have gotten a copy of this document, and if not, if you'll send an email to info@carvir.net, we'll send you this ad slick, including the artwork file, so you can actually edit it yourself and put your logos on there, as well as that breach reporting guidelines slide I showed you a couple of slides ago. But basically, it's a sales tool that we use to teach our partners how to have a security conversation as the IT person, so that they understand that you're paying attention and watching security. And it's everything from, security assessments all the way through your backups. We've got a few others to add on there as well, which we'll cover at some point down the road. So what does that really look like? First off, have you had a security assessment lately? You should be doing these with all of your customers on a regular basis. And ultimately, you can't control what you don't measure. I'll tell you that if you want to charge for them, security assessments, along HIPAA and other lines, we are seeing people charging anywhere from $175 to $250 per device. So it's a chance for you to go increase your project revenue. It's very easy to deliver. The biggest one I sold before I sold my MSP was a 3-year deal worth $118,000 to a small rural hospital that needed to do their HIPAA assessment. And 9 times out of 10, we use the rapid fire tools, which everybody on here probably knows about, to deliver those assessments. But you got to kind of know where you are today, so you can figure out how to secure the client. So that's definitely the baseline for your building blocks. The next thing we cover is you got to have all the basics in place, and I'm sure as IT service providers, you know that you've got to prevent the spam from coming in the email. I don't care what tools you use, just use a tool. Use something that's out there, and if you're using Office 365, make sure you turn on and pay for their advanced threat detection. Certainly helps and does a good job. You've got to apply good group policies. Now, we call it passwords on the checklist, but it's everything from limiting the exposure of USB drives to best practices concerning password lockouts and difficult password policies and those kinds of things. And for those of you that don't know, there's a really cool site out there and a team out there called thirdtier.net that for a small donation, which they then pass along to help bring women into cybersecurity, they'll give you their group policies that you can apply to your client sites with their ransomware prevention kit, or RPK as we call it. You definitely need that in your arsenal.
And Jay, allow me to take just a moment. I happen to know Amy Babachek personally, and ever since the beginning when she created Third Tier. So I'll just give a fast plug. It's great to see you in efforts with her and what she's doing. And if you haven't checked it out, do so. It's a great service.
Yeah, it really is. And we've been using it on our client sites back when we had clients, for years. So I know it's definitely a good first step if you're not sure where to start. And of course, computer updates. Everything from your Adobe and Java and Microsoft patches, critical updates. But I'm also going to challenge everybody on the call today to actually inspect what you expect. I talked about rapid fire a moment ago. When's the last time you ran a rapid fire scan against your own business to see what your vulnerabilities are and where your gaps are? You've got to find those and get those things shut down. I will also tell you that with the right RMM tools, you can alert to things and set up monitors for things like brute force password attempts. Put a counter on that says if there's a brute force password attempt more than 10 times, or if I lock out an account twice in a 1-week period of time or 30-day period of time, to go ahead and alert your team to that. So you can go look and see it. Someone trying to break into a web server, an Exchange server, a remote desktop server, or what have you. And if you're not getting alerts on those kinds of things, you definitely should be. Training. There's lots of options out there for training. You've got to not only sell training out to your clients, using one of the training tools that are out there, but you also should be training your team on security and good hygiene and data rules and policies and how you're going to manage things. So it's very important you do that. We happen to be friends with the guys at HIPAA and Breach Secure now, but I'm also fans of Stu and his team over at KnowBe4. So, find something that works for you and then get it out to your customers and build that layer, because if you can teach the person sitting in the chair who's actually running your client's network and their computers to be a little bit more cautious, you're going to have less issues to deal with from a security perspective. And that certainly makes your typical all-you-can-eat package much more valuable. If you're billing per hour, well, again, it avoids the my building's on fire because I just got hacked conversations with your customer. So training is very important. Firewalls. I don't really care whose firewall you sell, okay? It could be a Sophos, it could be a Meraki, it could be a Palo Alto, it could be Cisco, it could be Checkpoint. I mean, it doesn't really matter to me. What I care about is how many times we go into an environment and look over an MSP's shoulders and they realize that somebody turned off the intrusion detection or intrusion prevention, disabled the UTM capabilities of those firewalls, and it always happens. Customer calls us, hey, I can't get to my banking website. And so the engineer's in a hurry, dials in, sees that, he doesn't know why it's being blocked. So they turn off everything and says, well, I'll come back and check later. Well, they never go back and turn those features back on and figure out what was causing the problem. And they're leaving your customers vulnerable, which ultimately means you may become responsible if those were turned off. And if you don't know what a SIEM is, it's a log file management system for firewalls and alert systems where you can correlate big data to look for intrusions and for things going on in your network that aren't supposed to be there. That's kind of a more mature product for your typical managed service provider. But when you get there, just remember that I talked to you about it. Encryption. Let's encrypt everything. Data in motion, at rest, mobile, just all of it. Laptops, USB drives, your email, cloud tools. If you don't have those tools in place, I can tell you that for disk encryption, Sophos and ESET have got some great tools that are MSP friendly and they actually work. For some of the other stuff like cloud management and USB drives, Beachhead and my work drive work really well. But just encrypt everything, including your email. Then, of course, backups. Now, we've all got into this conversation about backups, how you got to have a BDR, a backup disaster recovery server, and you need one. And that helps solve the problem of having a local backup as well as a cloud-based backup. I'm going to strongly recommend everybody on the call today that you add one more to it, and that is an offline copy of the client's data, what we would call air-gapped, and do it once a month. And keep 3 to 6 months or up to a year if you've got enough drive space, copies of their data available, even if they put it in their own safe in their building, because in the event of a cyber attack, your cyber recovery steps are different from an incident response than even your building caught on fire and you got to recover things. You need the forensics to go back and figure out what happened and when it happened to really dive into these kinds of problems.
Yeah, that's an excellent tip, because it doesn't really matter the size of the client with the cost of disk storage dropping the way that it is. There's no reason for any MSP not to have multiple copies of their client data to protect them. So I really like those scenarios you went through.
Yeah, it's good stuff. So the next one, which is where Carvir fits in, is the advanced security. And I'll kind of start with this. Does your current AV suck at preventing against today's threats? Is it causing more harm than good? Is their sales pitch better than their ability to protect against zero-day exploits and fileless threats? Can you actually get threat support when something happens? And ultimately, is their team dedicated to securing your clients, even if their antivirus software isn't installed on a particular client? So we believe that the biggest threat to the networks that you actually manage is relying on legacy antivirus tools. The common technology today for antivirus is still a signature-based database, or basically a checklist of known bad files. And that's yesterday's news in most cases. Now, I know that some of the companies have now put their signature list in the cloud, and that's awesome. It's certainly more efficient and gets the time to market, time to deployment, shortens that cycle. But it's still 25-year-old technology. It dates back to when they were using, these knuckle grinders to slice your credit card to pay for gas or pay for things at restaurants and stuff. So it really is time for a change. And that's primarily because the AV companies can't keep up with the pace of new threats being deployed every day. Right now, avtest.org is saying that there's 390,000 new malicious samples deployed every day. If you look at McAfee's team, I believe that last number I heard is they have 2,200 analysts looking at threats. Well, that's obviously not 2,200 full-time, 24 hours a day. And they got to be able to look at 390,000 threats. It's not possible anymore to keep up and use that model. And it's only going to get worse. So we really believe that these vendors can't keep up and they can't respond fast enough because of that technology. And a great example is one that I was actually working our help desk when this one came in. We identified this file on March 30th. We missed it initially, and we had to actually remediate and roll back to bring the machine back to life. It only talked to the UK, so it didn't go anywhere really bad. At least we didn't think so until we realized there was a proxy set up. And so as soon as we got a sample of it, we shared it out to VirusTotal, which is one of the known sources that are out there. 4 days later, only 25 of the 59 AV companies even had it listed as a threat. And I just don't know how they're going to be able to keep up as these threats get worse and worse, and that we're all having to deal with stuff that we never had to deal with before. We're also seeing scenarios, and I've got a longer case study with Kevin, but he's a Continuum partner, and he had the AV installed and Malwarebytes installed, and the client got hit by ransomware. And out of pain and frustration on behalf of the customer, he reached out to us and he deployed Sentinel-1. And within hours, we were seeing where the attack actually came from, what happened, and how it transgressed his network, and why his guys couldn't see it when they ran all the current tools that he had to stop threats. So we do believe that you have to have a multi-layered approach to cover these kinds of threats, and that's kind of what our partners are starting to figure out. The before an attack box is really simple. That's looking at yesterday's news and blocking all the obvious stuff. But we're also picking up and looking at behaviors now, because the tools that we use are a behavior-based engine. And so we look for not a known bad file so much as if a Word document calls PowerShell, that's probably not a good behavior, and we can shut it down and avoid it from causing pain, which is why we do a good job of preventing the zero-day types of attacks. If something does get through, and let's say that PowerShell script actually launches, we move into the during an attack phase, and we can see step by step what it's actually doing and what it's trying to do to the machine to further cause pain for the user and get the files encrypted or take control of the machine and use it for other bad purposes. And lastly, you've got to have an after an attack plan. So the tool that we use from Sentinel-1 has a full mitigation engine, has a remediation engine, including the ability to roll back a ransomware attack. And yes, I did say a rollback a ransomware attack. We can do that, and provide the forensics as to what happened. To give you an idea of what that looks like, we're able to detect where it goes and where the machine talks to, which your typical AV just can't do. Obviously, in this case, it was bad. We were in alert mode only, so we wanted to see how bad the threat was, so it was really cool to watch it happen. We can see what it does step by step and how it executes, and we can drill down into each of those steps to know exactly what transpired. We have the ability to kill the threat, quarantine, remediate, and roll back. Plus, if you've got a machine that's really infected and we're afraid it's going to try to go lateral, we can even disconnect the machine from the network. So it can only talk back to our console for our guys to finish the remediation steps, and then we can put it back online so the user can go back to work. All of these things typically happening without the MSP having to dispatch an engineer or be involved. Our team takes care of all this for you. And then we provide the forensics as to what actually happened so that you can see step by step where it came in, where it launched from, who the user was, if it's a terminal server or what have you. It really provides the details so that we know what patches and what systems to put in place to prevent these kinds of things from happening again. What's really cool is who else is using Sentinel-1. These are a handful of the companies. We also know now from recent filings that Gannett is now a customer, as is Fortune, Time, Rackspace, and many others are using SentinelOne because it truly is an enterprise class product that we've now brought down to the MSP space. And it's also certified as an AV replacement, works on Mac, Linux, and Windows machines, and does check the boxes for HIPAA and for PCI. So for those of you that want to know more about what we're doing with SentinelOne, we've got a very simple partner program. This information has been out there, so it's not necessarily new. If you were at the event, you probably saw some of this. It was built for MSPs and the partner program we have together. We definitely are providing a new product that's unique to the space, helps you keep the competition out and gives you a way into new conversations, leading with security. It's a fully managed endpoint security solution. So when you partner with us, you actually get our entire security team to help you with incident response and let our team take all the virus and malware and junk off of your team's plates so they can go out and work on bigger and more profitable projects. Again, you don't need to add additional engineers to be a partner with us. We actually provide those for you. It works for all sized IT service providers. You can be a one-man shop who's just getting started, or we've got some partners that have got in excess of 100 employees that are using us for their security. There are some guarantees available from SentinelOne. We'll cover those in another conversation because it's pretty interesting how they are changing the conversation using their $1 million ransomware guarantee. Yes, it does replace your outdated antivirus, although to be fair, a lot of our partners like layered security, and we certainly are okay with that. And we play nice with most antivirus providers because we're not scanning files. It doesn't really add any additional weight to a machine or slow the machine down. And ultimately, we don't require a long-term contract. I didn't require it in my MSP practice, and I don't require it now. We know that security technology changes fast enough that we want to make it as easy as possible for you to take advantage of the tools that are out there. And we even offer our 30-day risk-free guarantee. So if you get started with us and you don't like it, we'll actually give you back your money. We're not trying to screw MSPs. That's not what we do for a living. So from a management standpoint, our team takes care of all the frontline work for you. So we do the monitoring, the management, the research, remediation, support of all the machines with SentinelOne. Plus, you can use us for incident reporting and events in case you've got a client that's not covered. And then we integrate directly with your ticketing system. So whether you're using ConnectWise or Autotask or one of the other tools, we can deliver tickets with all the detail into your existing systems. We also provide a tremendous amount of sales and marketing support, content from SentinelOne, plus a ton of stuff that we've done for our partners to help them take security to the market and really drive these conversations. The partner program itself is pretty straightforward. We've got this offer that actually ends tomorrow. And Dave, I'm okay for the people that are on this call today if we extend that for you for a couple of weeks in case you want to have a conversation. I wasn't trying to drop this as a last-minute pitch. We've had this data out there for a while because SentinelOne is raising their prices. But our partner program is $197 a month. We're waiving the setup fee. And with that, we're giving you your first 20 workstation licenses and your first 2 server licenses. So you're getting over $100 worth of licensing as part of that package. And then after you go over that, it's $405 per month per workstation and $1090 per server. And we've got some volume discounts at 250 and 500 machines, 10% at each level. To give you an idea of what SentinelOne charges in the enterprise space, because everybody always asks, SentinelOne charges $65 per year per workstation, unmanaged. So you have to add your labor on top of that, and $163 per year per server. And if you're an MSP and want to go out and buy it direct, you certainly have that option. I can't tell you you can't do that, but SentinelOne's going to tell you that you've got to have at least 2,000 seats before they'll even talk to you, committed and sold. So typically, if you're not a 5,000 seat MSP, they're probably going to tell you to call Jay and use us for a period of time until you get to that size.
Hey, Jay, I just have to take a second and say thanks for extending that offer to the folks participating in the webinar. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, I'm not trying to be a car salesman, that's for sure.
Yep, understood.
Buy it now, buy it. No, I mean, we want you to, but if you need a week or two to go through the demo process and understand it, just remind me that you're on this call and we'll take care of the pricing for you. People also want to know, though, what our partners are selling it for. So typically they're selling workstations anywhere from $6 to $10 per month as an add-on service. Sometimes they give the customer a credit for taking off the AV, but you still end up somewhere around that $6 to $10 per month range. And servers, I put $15.90 to $50, but I think $25 to $30 is the pretty standard number we're seeing of what they're giving it to their clients for. So for those of you that want to get started, it's pretty straightforward. You can go out to our website. It's neverpaytheransom.com, and if you want to see the demo, we've got a 5-minute rollback demo here, which is pretty cool. These two buttons down at the bottom are pretty important. One is the partner registration button so you can get started, and the other is if you want to schedule a call or schedule a demo, then we understand you want more information. We're happy to do that with you. So you can do either of those from our website. And then once you decide you want to become a partner, the process is pretty simple. You're going to provide us some basic information. You'll get to the partner subscription page. If you're doing it before tomorrow night, then you can use 2016 price, because that price is actually our end of year pricing that we extended up till now. And that'll get you up and running. You'll sign the mutual non-disclosure and you'll schedule your onboarding call, which takes about an hour. It's pretty simple. We'll get you up and running. We've got scripts written for all the major RMM tools. So, as far as deployment and those kinds of things to put it out there. So it's a fairly straightforward process to get going and become a partner. But again, don't forget that promo code. If you want to know real life stories, we've got plenty of customers. They're out on our website as well. They'll all be happy to talk to you, tell you how good a job we've done. We got one call from a partner last night at 10 o'clock. He actually called my cell phone because he got a lead from a client who had been hit by a ransomware attack yesterday, and their MSP failed miserably at having backups or anything else. So he was called in to help clean up and take over their managed services. And so we actually gave him a checklist of things to do when he got there this morning to help lock down the environment, even though the client didn't even have Sentinel-1 yet. So once you're a partner of ours, we're here to help you grow and protect your clients, regardless of whether or not that they've got Sentinel-1 installed or not. So with that, Dave, do we have any questions?
Let me go ahead and I'll kick it off with the first set of questions to kind of help things, and then by all means, I'm keeping an eye on the questions window. So if you have questions for the folks on the call, make sure you put those in, and we'll take those also. So Jay, first thing is this a on-premise software where you install this, or is this a cloud-based solution, or a little bit of a combination?
Yeah, it's a combination. So there's no hardware to install, but there is an agent, just like your typical AV, that you will install on a local machine, server or workstation. And then that calls back to the Sentinel-1 console, which Sentinel-1 runs for us. We manage it day by day, but they actually manage the Amazon cloud that makes it all work.
Okay, awesome. And maybe the follow-up from that is most people probably have an RMM tool. How does this tie into that, so that when your services encounter an issue, how does the partner find out about it so that they can better manage that client? How do you kind of make your software talk to that RMM tool so that the partner gets those kind of alerts? So
our partners are using the RMM tool to do the installations, and they use them to double check and make sure they've got their installs and that they have the most current version out there for reporting. But when a threat comes in, our team actually does the first layer of analysis. We look to see whether it's a false positive, because it does happen. I'd rather have a few false positives than a few misses. So we set the settings that way. We go through, we would do the analysis and the research, and then we can drop a ticket into your ticketing system, whether it be, again, ConnectWise or Autotask or one of the other flavors of ticketing tools out there, via email, and we give you screenshots and the forensic files of everything that we saw, plus notes from our research, so that your team knows exactly what you need to do next, which is usually nothing. Usually it's just close the ticket and we gave it to you as an information so that you know that we're good, we took care of whatever it was that we saw, and you're good to work. And most of our partners are telling us that when we stop those kinds of threats, they're now counting those as 2 to 4 hours of found labor that they would have spent on a customer cleaning up the damage that we took care of and they never had to get involved with.
Right, and Mike asked a question. He gets the idea of defense in layers, but are you actually saying that this solution can be a replacement for AV, current AV, legacy AV, if you wanted it to?
Yes, and most of our partners have gotten rid of their legacy AV. They're tired of it not doing the job. I mean, right now, the typical AV has what they call an efficacy rate or success rate of somewhere in the mid 30% range. Sentinel-1 is testing in the high 90%, 96 to 99%, consistently by all the independent testing companies against all of today's threats, both known and unknown.
Okay, good stuff. And we had another question from John, and his was, what kind of reporting is there that you can give to a client? And I think I know where he was going with this. One of the challenges, I'm going to do a good comparison. One of the challenges we have with firewalls, we know when we put a firewall in place, it protects the client, but we always can't show that to a client. Meaning we can't go to a client and say, hey, this month the firewall blocked, 32,000 attempt attacks. So sharing with a client that the solutions do something is a challenge. So I don't know what kind of reporting you might have that we can show to a client to go, this is how we protected you. This is some results of what we helped block this month.
So it's a little vague right now, and that's one of the beefs that we have with the Sentinel-1 product, and primarily because it's not a multi-tenant product yet. That's why we had to layer our service team in to help deliver it and manage it for you, because today there's not a way for you to dial in and see what's going on, although the role-based access for multi-tenant should be out sometime later this summer, at which point we'll then give it to our partners. Because that's the case, Dave, I can't run a specific report on a specific client site yet, but that's coming where I'll be able to say, here's all the things we blocked, and not only did we blocked, but here were the remediation steps we took to protect that client, because when you're talking about HIPAA and PCI, they now want to know how you handled it in addition to the fact that you saw it and can report on it. So even, unfortunately, the AV tools that are out there today that have some really fancy reports, they're actually not showing what the remediation steps were, and auditors are starting to question the validity of that, and that's why they're saying that you should have a SIM product in place to be able to track and show what steps you took to prevent those things from happening.
Right.
So, so the sad answer is today it's not very good, and that's why when we deliver tickets to you in your ticketing system, we're going to coach you on flagging those so you can print them off and show them to your clients when you need to actually show what happened and how you handled it.
Right. No, good roadmap. So I appreciate that. And then a little bit more maybe of a technical question, but Amy asked a question. Can we also install the solution, the Sentinel-1, through GPO, through group policy?
Yes. Yeah. Group policy, login script, or your RMM tool, any of those are just fine.
Excellent. Yeah, I know that just on a little piece of trivia, GPO is through the course of time, Microsoft is going to fade that away. They're replacing it with PowerShell, but you really tapped on the right thing, which is RMM tools. The fact that you're working with the RMM tools so it can be deployed, that's what most partners are going to use anyway.
Yep.
So I'll wait for just a moment here. That was quite a few really good questions. If I know we still have quite a few people on the line, and if you would like to ask some clarifying questions, please go ahead and post those in the questions to let Jay have an opportunity to answer those. It also kind of helps us know what you're thinking too on the solution and where you see the fit with your clients. So by all means,
There's one question, Dave, which we almost always get asked. If they don't ask it here, they will when we talk to them direct, and that is, how do we roll back a ransomware attack?
Okay, go for it.
So I'm going to tackle that one since it hasn't come up yet. I usually save it towards the end for that to come up. So SentinelOne did some really neat things in their technology, and everybody's kind of trying to follow suit. They've got the patent on putting a bit in at the kernel level that stops the shadow copies from being deleted as part of an attack and prevents the shadow copy location from being removed or deleted, plus that they pre-encrypt a copy of the shadow copies. Or, sorry, they pre-encrypt the shadow copies so they can't be encrypted twice, which makes the recovery on the local machine very, very fast and very, very efficient. Others have tried to copy that, but they aren't nearly as far along in the maturity of the product. And to be clear, from a prevention standpoint, we're currently preventing and watching over 600 known bad behaviors based on over 30,000 indicators of compromise. So we're looking at all different kinds of variations of those 600 to be able to say, hey, again, Word calls PowerShell or calls command prompt, which launches PowerShell. That's not a good thing. Or a drive-by connection with your browser calls a file called mshta.exe, which is a Microsoft file that has the ability to run PowerShell. Well, your browser shouldn't be calling that file. So we know it's bad, so we're shutting it down before it even creates a problem for you. And it's those kinds of things that really are separating SentinelOne from the rest of the pack.
Really, really good stuff. I'll still keep the Q&A open. What I'm going to do is I'm going to jump over to the raffle side, and as I jump to the raffle side, by all means, you can, Jay's still with us, and I'm still watching the Q&As for what you have in. So the first thing on the raffle side, I'll just remind everybody that the SMB TechFest conference, it's quarterly, and you can participate in person. We had about mid-200s at our last event just a few weeks ago. A fantastic networking and presentations as well. So the next one's coming up Q3, July 20, which is a Thursday. So one big day of a lot of content. And I absolutely want to raffle away 2 passes to that and give 2 winners. And the first person is Lydia Park. So Lydia, congratulations. You have a pass. You're welcome to attend on site or online based on where you're located in the U.S. We do average about 20% fly in from around the U.S., but you're welcome to participate either way. So congrats, Lydia. And we'll send you an email and give you the details. The second person is Bob Michelin. So Bob, congrats as well. And you're welcome to attend also on site or online. Obviously, the benefit for on site is better networking with everybody. Fantastic food, some entertainment at the same time. We had in Q1 we had a Ferrari on the floor and raffled away 3.5-hour high-speed driving experiences where you can get it up to about 130 miles an hour. Q2 we had a Lamborghini on the floor, and so we believe in advancing your knowledge and at the same time having a good time together. So congrats to both of you. You'll receive an email just shortly so that you're able to register either on site or remote. And then of course you can always go to /events for the quarterly conference or /webinars for future upcoming webinars. And with that, Jay, won't you kind of give us a little closing piece? You did really great on covering, but I'll let you do a little close really quick.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity, Dave. Obviously, we've started building a great relationship and a good business on our side, and we look forward to helping more of your partners and friends in the community, protect their clients. I think if you got nothing else from this today, please go back and test your network and test your systems, secure your environment. And if you're not sure what to do or how to do that, or you're ready to start securing your clients, then you can reach out to us at neverpaytheransom.com. we'll be happy to give you some guides and some guidance on what to do and how to do it. So we appreciate everybody's time.
Yep. And Jay, I just wanted to add, I really liked those resources that you provided at the beginning so that partners know how to kind of build, I'm going to call it an arsenal, a marketing arsenal, so that they know. I think one of the frontiers that really hasn't been tapped yet is partners providing security as a service. And so in combination with those resources, I think really helps them go to market along with the solution that you have to actually deliver the service that they went to market and talked about. So that was really cool. I appreciate that.
Okay. Well, again, thanks everybody for your time. We appreciate it.
All right. So this is, we're going to give you back about 4 minutes in your day. I really appreciate everybody participating in the webinar. And lastly, we did record this. It will take us just a couple days as we have to clean up, trim off the beginning and the end, and then we will share that with all of the attendees so that you're able to go back and review it or share it with your team as well. So if you had somebody on your team that you think this would be good for, when you receive that link for the webinar, you can absolutely share it with them and let them get the insights as well, or your marketing department. So a lot of good stuff. So with that, I'm going to wrap us up, and Jay, thanks again.
Thanks, everybody.